This incredible exercise triggers a hidden risk of stroke for 1 in 50 seniors overnight. Tom Henderson, a bland blue sun hat perched atop his head, stood before the gathered seniors at the Maplewood Community Center. The atmosphere was usually filled with laughter and lighthearted chatter, but this Wednesday morning changed everything. He clapped his hands and yelled, "All right, folks, let's get moving!" Little did he know, he was about to come face to face with a storm that would rattle not just his class, but the entire town. "Look out!" someone yelled as Clara Jansen, one of Tom's most spirited participants, collapsed to the floor, her body twitching. The classroom went silent, panic spreading like wildfire. Breathless, Tom rushed to Clara's side. Her face was pale, her eyes staring wide in confusion. He fumbled with his phone, dialing for help, his hands trembling. In that moment, he felt the collective anguish of the group. There was nothing he could do but hold her hand tightly, his heart pounding against his ribs. As the ambulance arrived, the air in Maplewood shifted. Whispers of discontent began to creep through the town like a creeping vine. Was it the exercises that did this? The very movements Tom championed for years now seemed like harbingers of danger. In the days that followed, skeptical glances replaced warm smiles. Friendships strained under the weight of doubt. Tom could sense it, the thinly veiled whispers. What if he's been wrong all along? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Tom's loyalty to his exercise routine, which he believed strengthened both body and spirit, began to unravel. He recalled sitting at the kitchen table with his grandson, Jimmy, the two of them sharing stories of adventures past over half-finished cups of coffee. Now Jimmy, held back by small-town expectations, wore a troubled face. "Grandpa," he said hesitantly, "what if—" His voice trailed off, but the expression was clear. Doubt hung between them like an unwelcome fog. With flowers wilting on the dining table and an uncharacteristic heaviness in his chest, Tom moved through his day with somber resolve. The community center felt foreign now, the air thick with whispers of the unintended consequences of his careful teachings. Anxiety spurred him onward, each step echoing louder in his mind with the burdens of responsibility. As the class approached its last session together, Tom took a deep breath. Could he face the murmurs? Could he confront both the townsfolk's worries and the growing chasm between him and his grandson? He stood in front of the crowd, their faces a mixture of concern and expectation. What he did next would either bridge the gap or send him spiraling deeper into isolation. Could he muster the courage to stand tall, to embrace the questions swirling like leaves in the autumn wind? With Clara's memory haunting him, he took one step forward, knowing his life depended on it. It was now or never. A chance for redemption lay just beyond the horizon. Tom felt the air grow dense in the room as he stepped forward. The seniors shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, awaiting his words. For so long he had been their guiding light, advocating fitness as a pathway to strength and companionship. But now uncertainty shadowed those foundations. "Everyone, please," he began, his voice shaky but resolute. "I know things have been chaotic since Clara's incident. I understand your fear. I fear too." A few heads nodded, and someone in the back whispered, "It wasn't meant to be like this." Tom's heart raced. They weren't just participants anymore. They were his friends and neighbors, a vital part of his life. "I've had doubts too. I've asked myself if I've led you down the wrong road." He paused, searching their faces for any signs of understanding. "But I can't allow fear to dictate our future." He felt the spark of determination ignite within him, igniting memories of laughter shared and milestones achieved. Physical activity is essential for us. It keeps our minds sharp, our hearts healthy, and our spirits buoyant. If we stop now, fear wins. The collective intake of breath was palpable. Faces softened, eyes searching his. Could they find strength in his resolve? He continued, "What happened to Clara was tragic, and we want to honor her memory. But let's not forget the joy we found in movement, the camaraderie that drew us together in the first place." Tom decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. There will be changes. We'll consult with medical experts to ensure our program is safe. We might even create a special group to discuss our wellness and fears openly. The murmurs of dissent began to quiet, replaced with glimpses of hope. He saw Brenda, the retired nurse with kind eyes, lean forward. "You mean you're not giving up on us?" she asked, voice trembling. "Never," Tom promised, feeling the duty swell in his chest. "We're going to take this journey together. Clara wouldn't want us to cower in fear. She would want us to grow." A slow wave of applause rippled through the room. Tom felt a rush of relief and gratitude. They were willing to continue. He could see it in their expressions, the flickering lights of hope returning. As the session wrapped up, Tom caught a glimpse of Jimmy in the back. The hesitance on his grandson's face began to fade, replaced by a hint of admiration. This meant more than just a class. It was about being a pillar for one another in their small town. "Thank you for believing in me, everyone," he said, his voice catching with emotion. "Together we can face anything." But as people stood to leave, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that Clara's accident was just the beginning. What if they uncovered something darker lurking beneath the surface of their community, more than just skepticism and fear? Leaving with his heart lighter, he held on to that thought tightly. Curiosity gnawed at him, whispering that he had only scratched the surface. "We need to talk," said Jimmy as they walked home, the weight of something unspoken heavy in the air. Tom glanced down at his grandson, a healthy spark returning to Jimmy's gaze, but the tone hinted at something deeper. What did Jimmy know that he didn't? Little did Tom realize they were about to unearth truths that would change everything. The walk back home felt different than usual. Tom sensed the tension wrapping around him like a thin veil, something he couldn't quite shake off. The sky was painted in shades of dusky orange, the sunset a comforting sight, but it did little to calm the unease turning in his gut. He quickened his pace, wanting to hear what was on Jimmy's mind. "Okay, what's bothering you, kid?" Tom finally asked. They stopped at the corner of their street, the familiar sounds of the neighborhood buzzing softly around them, the chirp of crickets, the faint hum of a distant lawnmower. Jimmy hesitated, glancing around as if the trees were listening and the houses were eavesdropping. "I heard some things at school, Grandpa, about Clara and the program. People are saying there might be more risks than you think." His voice was steady, but Tom could see a hint of fear underneath. "What do you mean?" Tom's heart sank as he prepared for more bad news. "What kind of risks?" Jimmy shuffled his feet. There were some messages circulating online, people talking about how certain exercises could be bad for seniors, especially ones like the ones you're doing at the center, ones that involve too much strain. He bit his lip, brows knitting together. Tom felt a rush of heat under his skin. "That's just gossip, Jimmy. You know how rumors spread. We're being careful. We're consulting experts." But inside, uncertainty began to worm its way into his thoughts. What if there was something to it? What if Clara's accident wasn't an isolated incident? "Yeah, but what if it isn't?" Jimmy pressed, his eyes searching Tom's face, looking for answers. "I hear how they talk. They think something wasn't right. Some say it was the exercise program. Tom swallowed hard, realizing the tides of concern were washing over not just the seniors, but their families too. I can't believe our exercises would cause anything like that. We've always been safe. But you don't think it's true, do you? Jimmy shrugged, his expression caught between belief and disbelief. I don't want to believe. But I just thought it's best to tell you. I know how much Clara meant to everyone. The weight of it all pressed down on Tom. He didn't want to admit that a seed of doubt had taken root. The laughter, the camaraderie, the joy of movement, they were all tied to Clara's memory. But now he began to wonder if something darker lurked underneath. Maybe we should investigate, Tom said, making up his mind. We need to know what's really going on, for everyone's sake. Jimmy's eyes lit up. You mean, like, talk to some doctors? Check if the program really is safe? Exactly. And not just that. We might need to face some uncomfortable truths about our community. As they walked the final stretch home, excitement mixed with trepidation bubbled in the pit of Tom's stomach. The truth was out there, shimmering, tantalizingly, just out of reach. It could be terrifying, yet it might also be what everyone needed. When they finally reached the house, Tom took a deep breath. Questions flooded his mind. What if Clara's incident wasn't just a tragic accident, but a whisper of something greater? What if this puzzle held pieces of their past that linked the wellness program to the risks they now faced? "Grandpa," Jimmy said, stopping him at the door, "do you think we're ready for this?" Tom looked at his grandson, wondering if they really could uncover the truth. "We'll find out together, Jimmy. Let's not let fear decide for us." As they stepped into the dim light of the living room, something felt different. A whisper of change was rippling through the community, and Tom was determined to get to the bottom of it. But little did they know, he was only at the beginning of a journey that could unravel everything they thought they knew. And as the door clicked shut behind them, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that they were just starting to scratch the surface of a darker truth. What would they discover next? The next few days felt heavy with anticipation. Each morning, Tom woke up with a jolt, heart racing as he remembered their resolve. He wasn't just worried about what could be happening in the community, he was also concerned about his friends, the seniors who depended on the program for connection and wellness. "Jimmy, let's start with Mrs. Thompson," Tom suggested one afternoon while they enjoyed lunch. "She's been around the center longer than anyone. If she knows something, we should hear it." "Good idea, Grandpa," Jimmy replied, his enthusiasm brightening the room. They decided to visit her after school, an integral part of their plan to unravel the mystery. The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow as they approached Mrs. Thompson's house, a charming cottage adorned with blooming flowers that swayed gently in the breeze. The scent of lilacs hung in the air, a comforting reminder of simpler times. They knocked, and it didn't take long for the front door to swing open. Mrs. Thompson stood there, wearing a bright floral apron, her silver hair pulled back in a tidy bun, and a smile that instantly put them at ease. "Tom, Jimmy, how lovely to see you both," she beamed, ushering them inside. As they settled into her cozy living room, the air felt thick with unspoken words. Tom glanced around, taking in the family photos lining the walls, each one a testament to a life well lived. "Mrs. Thompson," he began cautiously, "we wanted to talk to you about the exercise program at the center." Her smile faded slightly, a hint of worry crossing her face. "Ah, yes, I've heard the whispers, dear. Some are saying the exercises might be too much strain." Tom felt a weight in his gut. "How much have you heard?" She paused before answering, glancing toward the window as if looking for the right words. "Just that several people felt a little off after the sessions. Some have had their spirits drop, but like any good exercise routine, you have to push through. But Clara—" The mention of Clara's name caused a crack in Tom's heart. "You mean," he hesitated, "did she ever express any concerns?" She seemed strong, full of life, but I noticed she had started to fade a bit in her last few weeks with us. It's hard to say. We all have our battles, you know. But I worry about the younger folks, the instructors. They push us to our limits." Tom exchanged a worried glance with Jimmy. It was exactly what they had been afraid of. Too much push, too little care. "Do you think we should bring this to the attention of the leaders at the center?" Mrs. Thompson's brow furrowed. "I think someone has to, Tom. If there's anything off, we need to know. We owe it to Clara and to one another." As they left her house, Tom felt the air grow thicker. This was no longer just about rumors. Real people were feeling the effects, and Clara wouldn't be the last if they didn't act. "Grandpa," Jimmy said, grabbing Tom's hand, "what if Clara's accident was just the tip of the iceberg? What if there are more secrets out there?" His words echoed in Tom's mind, leaving him unsettled. What other hidden truths lay waiting to be uncovered? Would they be strong enough to face them? There was no turning back now. With resolved hearts, they walked faster, sensing that with each step they were moving closer to something monumental. As they reached home, the horizon turned darker, reflecting the unease building inside them. And just as they crossed the threshold, Tom's phone buzzed loudly. He glanced at it. An email notification, the subject line reading, "Urgent, update on exercise program risks." His heart raced. What did it say? What new revelations awaited them on the other side of that screen? They had barely begun to peel back the layers, yet it felt like they were standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into uncharted waters. What would they discover next? Tom's hand shook slightly as he clicked on the email, the promise of urgent information weighing heavy on his mind. He felt Jimmy's eyes on him, a mixture of curiosity and concern evident on the boy's face. The screen loaded, and with each word, Tom's heart sank further. The message detailed alarming findings about the exercise program's intensity levels and their potential risks for seniors. It pointed out a concerning trend: rising reports of health complications, including strokes, among participants. The bold warning echoed painfully in his ears. 1 in 50 seniors could face this risk overnight. "What does it say, Grandpa?" Jimmy asked, his youthful innocence clashing with the heavy implications of the message. Tom swallowed hard, his throat dry. "It looks like the program might be more dangerous than we thought. They're suggesting a significant number of seniors are in immediate danger." He felt his voice tremble as he continued. "It's not just whispers anymore. It's real. We need to do something." Jimmy's expression shifted from confusion to resolve. "Let's tell everyone. We can't let this keep happening." With a newfound sense of urgency, Tom nodded. The weight of their responsibility grew larger than both of them. A wave of determination washed over him. They'd have to act fast, but they also needed allies, people who would lend their voices to this cause. "Let's reach out to Mrs. Thompson first. She deserves to know," Tom said after a moment of consideration. "And we should gather other seniors who might feel the same way. Maybe even organize a meeting at the center." "Great idea, Grandpa. We'll be like a team." Jimmy's excitement, while laced with anxiety, brought a glimmer of hope to Tom's heart. They spent the next hour drafting a message for Mrs. Thompson, detailing the findings and urging her to gather other seniors. The task felt monumental, but with each word typed, Tom felt a sense of empowerment. They divided the roles. Tom would handle speaking to the leadership at the center, while Jimmy would stay in touch with their friends. As twilight descended, bathing their home in warm orange hues, Tom placed a hand gently on Jimmy's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, kiddo. It takes courage to stand up for others." "Thanks, Grandpa. We're doing this together," Jimmy said, his small frame brimming with determination. The next morning was filled with an unusual energy. Despite their worries, they felt the stirrings of a movement growing between them, ready to unfold. Each senior they contacted echoed their concerns, recalling their own experiences with the program. Slowly but surely, the team was forming. Yet, amidst the noise of determination, a seed of doubt squirmed in the back of Tom's mind. What if the leadership dismissed their claims? What if they tried to cover everything up instead of addressing the issues? He couldn't shake the nagging fear. Just as they wrapped up their plans, Tom received This one was even more foreboding. An email from the exercise program's coordinator requesting an urgent meeting. "Jimmy, they want to speak with us," Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do we say?" Tom took a deep breath. "We tell them the truth. We can't hold back now." As they prepared for the confrontation, both excitement and fear coursed through Tom. They were about to step into unknown territory where their resolve would be tested. Would they be equipped to face the truths lurking in the shadows of the program? With their convictions set, they stood on the precipice of something formidable, their next move pivotal. But as they headed out the door, the world outside felt eerily still, as if it, too, awaited the unfolding of connected destinies. Would they emerge victorious, or would this meeting reveal dangers they weren't ready to confront? The air felt thick and charged as Tom and Jimmy approached the community center. Each step seemed heavier, laden with the weight of their mission. Tom's mind raced, envisioning the faces of the seniors they hoped to protect. "Do you think they'll listen?" Jimmy's voice pierced through Tom's thoughts. "They have to," Tom replied, though he could feel uncertainty gnawing at him. He clenched his fists, drawing strength from the boy beside him. "We have facts and stories. That matters." Arriving at the center, the sunlight spilled through the windows, casting golden rays on the gathering of seniors. Tom's heart raced as he surveyed the room. Faces lit up with recognition and concern as word of their meeting had spread. They had come to hear. The program coordinator, a polished woman named Susan, was already there, tapping her pen against a clipboard. Tom felt an instinctive wariness toward her confident demeanor. She smiled sweetly, but there was an edge to it, an unspoken challenge. "Tom, Jimmy," she said, her voice oozing charm, "I'm glad you could join us today." "We're here because we have serious concerns," Tom said, forcing the words out through clenched teeth. The seniors settled into their seats, some leaning in with curiosity, others fidgeting in hesitation. It was now or never. Tom took a deep breath and began to share the email's content, each word echoing in the silence. "The risks are real. 1 in 50 seniors could have a stroke due to this exercise program. We can't ignore it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Understanding flickered in their eyes, slowly turning to outrage. Susan's smile faded slightly, and her posture stiffened. "I understand your concerns," she said, her voice taking on a defensive tone. "But what about the reports?" Jimmy interrupted, his youthful impatience shining through. "What if your data is wrong? We can't just trust everything blindly." Tom shot him an approving glance. The passion in his grandson's voice ignited something deep inside him, a fiery resolve that he hoped would reflect in the seniors now rallying behind them. "This isn't just about numbers," one elderly man shouted, gripping his cane tightly. "It's about our lives. We've experienced the strain of these workouts. We deserve to know." Susan opened her mouth, then closed it, unease flickering across her face. The tide of passion was turning against her, and she could see it. Tom pressed on, bolstered by the rising spirits around him. "We need to gather everyone's experiences and share them with the board. We need transparency. This isn't just a whisper anymore. It's a real problem." The atmosphere in the room shifted, frustration turning into unity. One by one, seniors began raising their hands, stories pouring out as they shared their personal struggles, injuries, and anxiety surrounding the program. Each revelation chipped away at Susan's composure. As stories flowed, the finality of the moment settled in. Tom's spine tingled with a mix of fear and excitement. He was witnessing the very thing he had hoped for, a community coming alive, advocating for their safety. But just as momentum surged, Susan's expression morphed back into the practiced smile that unnerved Tom. "I'll need to take these points back to the board, but you must understand we're committed to this program. Change is not something we embrace lightly." A knot twisted in Tom's stomach. And what if it's too late? That silence wrapped around them like a fog. His words hung heavy in the air, the weight of their potential impact looming larger than ever. Did they have the power to spearhead a change, or would their voices be drowned out by bureaucracy? As the meeting concluded, deep-rooted worry mingled with budding hope. They had stood up today, but what would it mean for tomorrow? Driving home, Jimmy turned to Tom, eyes bright. "Did we do enough, Grandpa?" Tom's heart ached at the weight of the question. "We did something, but it's just the beginning." The journey lay stretched out before them, still shadowed with uncertainty, yet the first brave steps had been taken. As they sat in silence, the flickering hope felt both fragile and explosive, ready to spread. But lurking in Tom's mind was a chilling thought. What if they were being watched? What if the powers that be were preparing to strike back? A shiver ran down his spine. The real battle was only just beginning. The following morning felt heavy with anticipation. Tom's alarm rang shrilly, slicing through the thick tension that had settled into his bones. He rubbed his eyes, but the unsettling feeling wouldn't go away. It was today they would hear back from Susan, and every tick of the clock felt like a countdown to something monumental. "Grandpa, are you awake?" Jimmy's voice was laced with excitement, struggling to break through the gravity of the morning. "Yeah, I'm up," Tom replied, forcing a smile. He glanced at Jimmy, whose energy was nearly infectious. But as he watched his grandson zip around the kitchen, sliding into conversations with the ease of youth, Tom felt a pang. "Do you think they'll listen?" Jimmy asked again, echoing his earlier doubt. "I hope so," Tom said, though the confidence in his voice felt somewhat hollow. "But we've done our part. Now it's time for them to decide." After they finished breakfast, they gathered their notes. Feedback from the meeting, personal stories, and statistics. The weight of those pages was almost comforting, a tangible representation of their fight. On the drive to the community center, the sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft glow over the neighborhood. But beneath the beauty of it all, an undercurrent of anxiety coursed through Tom. What if Susan dismissed their concerns? What if she claimed it was merely a few disgruntled voices? As they pulled into the parking lot, the center looked deceptively calm. Yet, just inside the doors, they could sense the electric buzz of anticipation. Sunlight caught on the metallic surfaces of the chairs where seniors gathered, their faces a mix of hope and worry. Tom took a deep breath as he and Jimmy made their way inside. There, at the front, he spotted Susan, flanked by a couple of board members. Their expressions were tight, masked with a professionalism that felt distinctly unwelcoming. "Good morning, everyone," Susan began, glancing around the room. "We've gathered today to discuss some feedback we received regarding our exercise program, and I'd like to thank Tom and Jimmy for the passionate concerns they raised." Her tone was sharp, as if holding a fine edge between courtesy and condescension. Before Tom could respond, one of the board members stood up, his arms crossed. "We appreciate the stories shared, but the data we rely on shows no significant danger. This program has been very successful." Tom felt a flicker of anger. "But do you really believe numbers alone can represent what we experience? Our lives depend on this. People are struggling, and you need to listen to us." The room held its breath, and Tom could feel every gaze on him, wondering if they were all waiting for a spark or perhaps a meltdown. "This is not just a number," an elderly woman spoke up, her voice trembling yet fierce. "This is my sister who couldn't walk for weeks after a workout. This is my neighbor who can't join us anymore because he's too afraid." Tom could see the shift in the room. They were rallying together again, igniting the flame they had started days before. But would it be enough? Susan's demeanor shifted, and her smile faltered. "We can't go on hearsay alone. We need tangible evidence." "What?" Jimmy interrupted. "You want more stories? More pain? This is about lives at risk." Tom felt a swell of pride, but before he could compartmentalize their anger into something productive, Susan raised her voice, the tension making it pitch higher. "Enough! You have to understand, change takes time." "What if today is too late?" Tom challenged, the words spilling out. Suddenly, he was aware that something more significant was at stake. Silence sunk in, heavy and palpable. Tom's heart pounded. A struggle lay not just against the board, but against an unquestioned system. Then Susan's face hardened. "We'll consider this feedback, but I need to get back to the board." Tom's hopes began to dim as they prepared to leave the room. The resistance he had felt before dimmed beneath the weight of bureaucracy, and the path ahead felt more treacherous than ever. As they stepped outside, Jimmy looked up at Tom, his face shadowed with concern. "What happens now?" Tom swallowed hard. "We keep fighting. We can't let their indifference win. But first, we need a plan, something bolder." Just then, Tom caught sight of something strange. A figure watching them from a distance, hidden behind the bushes near the entrance. Who were they? Did they know what was unfolding? Tom's heart raced, knowing that the stakes had just risen. It wasn't just a battle for the seniors anymore. They were back to square one, with more than their safety on the line. What was lurking in the shadows? Tom's breath quickened as he squinted at the shadowy figure. A chill ran down his spine. "Did you see that, Jimmy?" he whispered, pointing discreetly. "See what?" Jimmy's forehead wrinkled with confusion, his eyes darting around. "What's wrong?" "There's someone over there," Tom replied, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "I think they might be watching us." Jimmy's curiosity piqued. He leaned forward. "Who is it? An investigator? You don't think they're here to spy on us, do you?" "Let's just find out," Tom said, feeling the urge to confront whatever was lurking. With a quick glance around, he made his way toward the bushes, Jimmy trailing closely behind. As they got closer, the figure emerged, an elderly man with graying hair and a determined look. It took Tom a moment to place him. He had seen the man in the community center numerous times before, but had never exchanged a word. "Excuse me," Tom called, stopping just a few feet from the man. "What are you doing here?" The man straightened, his eyes piercing. "I overheard what you said in there about the exercise program. I wanted to talk to you." "Okay," Tom prompted, tension still coiling in his stomach. "I'm Harold," the man said. "I've been coming to this center for years, and I've seen things, troubling things, but nobody seems to care." Tom glanced at Jimmy, who looked as perplexed as he felt. "What do you mean? What do you know?" Harold shifted his weight nervously. "It's about the exercise program. I don't think it's safe. My neighbor, she ended up in the hospital after a class, and they just brushed it under the rug." "But the board says everything looks good on their end," Tom replied, feeling the frustration rise again. "If there's real evidence, that could change everything." Harold's gaze sharpened. "I have something, a stack of complaints. People who faced the same issues. I was gathering signatures to present to the board, but no one wanted to stick their neck out. But maybe if you and your grandson could help? Tom's heart began to race. This could be their chance, a way to grab the security of the truth and use it to fuel their fight. Absolutely, we want to hear everything you have. But we need to act fast, Harold warned, shifting nervously again. They're going to sweep this under the rug if we don't bring it to light soon. There's a meeting next week. We might be able to do something if we rally enough support. Then we'll get to work, Tom said, feeling a surge of adrenaline. This is it, Jimmy. This could change everything. We have to spread the word, Jimmy jumped in, excitement bouncing in his voice. If we get more people to support us, we can't be ignored. As they brainstormed their next steps, Tom could hardly contain the whirlwind of hope and determination swelling inside him. They could turn the tide, but they needed to come together, draw in everyone who had been affected by the program. But as they plotted their course, Tom's mind raced back to the figure in the bushes. Had they been seen? Was someone else watching, not just Harold? Suddenly, a familiar face appeared at the edge of the parking lot. It was Susan, talking urgently into her phone. Her gaze occasionally darted in their direction. The tension in Tom's chest tightened. What was she planning? Did she know what they were up to? "Guys, we need to hide," Tom whispered urgently, tugging on Jimmy's sleeve. "If she sees us plotting—" They quickly ducked behind a nearby vehicle, peeking out just enough to keep an eye on Susan. The stakes were higher than they had thought, quickly escalating beyond community exercise concerns. And this was just the beginning. What other secrets could be lurking in the shadows, waiting for Tom and Jimmy to uncover? Tom held his breath, heart pounding loudly in his chest as he watched Susan's frantic movements. Every click of her heels against the pavement felt amplified in the tense air around them. What was she doing? More importantly, who was she speaking to? "Do you think she knows?" Jimmy whispered, his voice barely audible. Tom shook his head, trying to piece together the puzzle. She might have caught sight of Harold earlier. We need to stay quiet and see if she shares anything useful. As they peered out from behind the car, Susan's animated gestures drew their attention. The way she waved her hands, almost pleading with whoever was on the other end of the call, sent a knot of unease deep into Tom's gut. She had never struck him as someone who concerned herself with the well-being of others outside her realm. "She's always been about her image," Tom murmured. "But this seems different." "Maybe she's worried," Jimmy suggested, furrowing his brow. "She usually doesn't care about anything unless it affects her directly." "Or maybe she feels threatened," Tom replied, their eyes widening in unison as if the realization suddenly hit them. "What if we're getting closer to the truth and she doesn't want anyone to know?" With a sharp turn, Susan abruptly ended the call and began pacing. Tom could see the tension in her shoulders. He exchanged glances with Jimmy, and in that silent moment, a plan started to form in Tom's mind. "Let's act like we're just hanging out here," he said, shifting slightly further away from the vehicle's edge. "If she thinks we're just two kids killing time, maybe she'll reveal something." They straightened up slightly, trying to appear nonchalant despite their racing hearts. Susan glanced toward their direction, and for a brief moment their eyes locked. Tom's heart stopped as she hesitated. But then she shook her head, casting it off and turning back toward the center entrance, mumbling into her phone again. "Did you hear that?" Jimmy nudged Tom, his eyes wide. "What?" "I think she mentioned the meeting." "Which one?" Tom asked, already connecting the dots in his mind. "The one about the exercise program. She said something about needing to prepare, like they're expecting backlash." Excitement bubbled inside Tom, mixed with a heavy dose of urgency. They would need to attend this meeting. It could be their best chance to confront the board directly and perhaps catch Susan off guard. "Let's gather more evidence before the meeting next week," Tom decided. If we can find anyone else to back up what Harold said, we can't be ignored. Jimmy nodded enthusiastically. I'll talk to some folks from the Senior Cards Club. They've been through the program too. We can compile their complaints. Just as they were about to move, Tom felt an ominous chill creeping up his spine again. He glanced over his shoulder, scanning the lot. Something about the shadows felt different now, heavier. Jimmy, Tom said, lowering his voice again, we need to be careful. If Susan is talking to someone about us, we can't take any chances. But before they could walk away, a voice rang out to them from behind. You really shouldn't be here. They turned to see a woman approaching who looked vaguely familiar, a fellow community member who often attended discussions at the center. What have you two been up to? She asked, a knowing look glinting in her eyes. Tom's stomach dropped. Was she connected to Susan? Did she hold more secrets in her hands? Fear began to permeate through his hopeful plans, but he couldn't just back down. Something had to give, and he felt it in every fiber of his being. What would happen now? Would they be able to gather enough support to bring the truth to light, or would shadows only deepen as they pressed forward into the unknown? The tension hung thick in the air, suffocating, yet charged with potential. Tom and Jimmy exchanged quick glances, uncertainty dancing across their faces. The woman approaching, with her sharp gaze, didn't inspire confidence. She had often been outspoken in meetings, and now her presence felt predatory. What do you mean by that? Tom asked, trying to sound casual, though his pulse quickened. I saw you with Susan. You two seem awfully invested in what's going on. Are you barking up the wrong tree? She questioned, her tone probing. No, Jimmy replied, voice firm despite the tremor in his hands. We're doing this to help the seniors. Clara, she deserves that much. The mention of Clara's name made the woman pause. A flicker of empathy crossed her features, but it was gone swiftly. You should tread carefully. The board doesn't like disruptions. Tom straightened, catching his breath. He realized it was now or never. We're not afraid of the board. We want transparency, real safety for everyone, he declared, feeling the weight of community behind his words. Safety? Or are you digging your own grave? She warmed, her voice dipping to a conspiratorial whisper. Tom felt defiant. You would rather sit in silence while people are getting hurt? Fury simmered in her eyes, yet Tom could detect the slightest hint of agreement. I've been trying, but people keep their heads down. No one wants to go against the board. Then let's change that, Jimmy interjected, passion igniting in his voice. If we unite, we can beat them. Easy for you to say, kid, she replied, her voice laced with bitterness. You're not the one who'll face the consequences. Quite suddenly, the reality of their situation came rushing back to Tom like a wave crashing over a shoreline. He saw the hesitation, the flicker of fear in the woman's eyes. Beneath the bravado lay concern. She wasn't just any bystander. Listen, we're not backing down, Tom said, his voice steady. We're gathering support, and you could help us. If you know something, we need to hear it. Now's the time to stand up for each other. The woman studied him for a moment that felt like an eternity before finally relenting. Fine, I've got a few names, and I hate to say it, but some aren't as timid as I thought. If you find them and get them on board, you might just have a fighting chance. Tom's heart raced with renewed hope as she began rattling off names. Each one was a thread weaving deeper into the fabric of their community's inaction. As she wrapped up, a chill ran through them both. Something was brewing beneath the surface, and implications were far clearer than they had anticipated. Thank you, Tom replied with sincerity. You just gave us a real opportunity. Just remember what I said, she said, her voice dropping again. You're stirring something big. Keep your eyes peeled. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Tom feeling a mix of anticipation and unease. If they were going to confront the board next week, They needed to act fast. "Let's hit the streets," Tom said, directing Jimmy. "We have a community to rally." The next few days were a blur of activity. They reached out to seniors, heard stories of struggles and suffered injuries, all too eager to share their own brush with the program's dangers. Each shared experience only fueled their collective resolve. By the time the meeting approached, Tom felt the weight of the community behind him, like a mighty tidal wave ready to crash against barrier after barrier. They had amassed a small army. Neighbors, friends, the once silent seniors prepared to speak out. As they gathered in the community center once more, Tom felt emboldened. The collective murmurs, laughter, and determination in the room served as their shield. His heart raced, each heartbeat echoing the power of unity. They waited for Susan and the board, who soon entered the room looking unprepared for what would follow. "Thank you all for coming today," Susan started. "We're here to address the points raised last week regarding our exercise program." Before she could continue, an elder named Miss Whitaker stood up, her cane firmly planted on the floor. "Thank you for addressing our concerns, but we've got questions that bind our lives." The room simmered with excitement as stories unfolded like petals opening in spring. Each story raw, each revealing the honest truth. One after another, seniors stood, giving voice to their fears and grievances. Tom stood, heart swelling with pride at the bravery of his peers. "We've all gathered here today because we care for one another, and we want this program to help, not harm." The board members exchanged glances, eyes widening at the collective testimonies flowing like a river, spilling the strong current of truth. Susan stuttered, We are committed to the safety of our members," but it felt hollow. After what felt like hours, the meeting concluded, but Tom felt the shift. They had thrown stones into the placid waters of bureaucracy, and the ripples were only just beginning. As they left, Tom spotted Harold. "Did you hear that? We might have just succeeded." "I didn't expect everyone to come together like this," Harold replied, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's all about community. We're stronger together," Tom said, his heart soaring. As Tom and Jimmy walked outside together, laughter bounced off the walls. It could have been in the distance, but it felt universal, a reminder of the joy they fought for. But just as the sunlight warmed their skin, a shadow cut through the brightness. They turned. There was Susan again. This time, her eyes held a flicker of something darker. "You think this is over?" she called out, her voice icy. Tom stood tall, his heart pounding but resolve firm. "No, it's just the beginning. We're not going to sit back anymore." In that moment, he realized the fight wasn't over, but they had taken the first steps toward change. Together, they would uncover every dark secret, every flicker of danger, for Clara and for each other. "Let's keep digging," Jimmy said, excitement in his voice. "There's more to uncover." Tom smiled at his grandson, the fire of determination reflected in them both. "Yes, more than we ever imagined, and we'll do this together." With every step forward, they were ready to fight. They would protect their community at all costs. The fight for truth and for those they loved had just begun. And as they walked off into the sunset, Tom felt a profound sense of purpose. They were about to shine a light on the shadows. Now was the time to act. And you too can be a part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. True fans like you understand the importance of helping us grow together.